What's going on, troopers? Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. Today we got my man Erik, former neighbor, currently call sign Falcon. He's leveled up very quickly in the academy. So, Falcon, excited to talk to you all things uh, space, airplanes, troopers, nerding out, working out. For those who aren't aware, this guy's got more patents on airplanes than the freaking Wright brothers. So he's a
About that.
smart dude. Loves Carrie Underwood. What else am I missing?
Definitely, and I think you hit the main points.
All right, and loves Beast Games. That
Oh, yeah,
finale was
yes.
fantastic. I can't believe he guessed it on the final try, or the first try. So anyway, let's dive
Well,
in. What was
all
going
right.
on, um, a year ago in your health and fitness journey? What inspired you to reach out to a dude that cosplays out in the, streets?
Yeah, so about a year ago, I was just in, I guess you could say, midlife crisis mode. I had been working out for a few years with a buddy of mine, which was going really well, but he moved away like 3 or 4 years ago, and I never really got back into it. Going to a gym alone was it's too intimidating, not to know what to do, how much weight to lift, what my form looks like. So I always talk myself out of it. That coupled with just a lot of personal stress and work stress. And by the end of the day, I just wanted to come home, shut the lights off, and not do anything. Um, but then last summer, I got to a point where I was getting close to my max weight. And I realized, trying to get ready for work, I could barely fit into my clothes. And I'm like, what am I going to do in a month when I can't wear anything? So that's kind of what gave me the momentum to start looking. Um, right around that time, working from home, saw this guy walking around my house wearing a Luke Skywalker outfit. I was like, what is going on with this dude? Um, and it was later that day or maybe that weekend, I came across one of your videos on Instagram and things made a little bit more sense. Still not quite there, but
To be fair, what the heck is this dude doing? Very valid question to be asking.
yeah,
Whether I'm
but it
wearing
was,
helmets or Jedi robes in the
yeah,
streets, like what is going on?
what's happening. So I decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna reach out. He's right behind me. I can ask him some questions, get some ideas, and that's where the journey began.
Yeah. And so you've worked out in the past. We talked a lot about your different trainers you worked with or different, approach you done. You ran a marathon in the past. And as we got started, what were some of the things that you quickly realized were either different approaches or things that were little tiny shifts that you needed to make? Like what started to make things click for you?
Yeah. So I lost a lot of weight after high school. When I did that, I was under the mentality that it had to be everything was low fat, reduce calories, and exercise a ton. And so I did that. And then that lasted quite a while. But then when I started working out more as an adult, I would revert that thinking with food again, low fat, low calories, all that. But my workouts were like they have to be an hour long, they have to be 7 days a week, to the point of exhaustion. At times I would end up throwing up at the end, and I was like, great, that was a good workout.
Hmm.
It wasn't sustainable. I ended up burning out from that. Um, so when I started working with you, I noticed very different approach. I wasn't throwing up. You taught me a lot about listening to your body and why I was in fact throwing up and how that's not a healthy thing. But also, I think the big thing with you was my relationship with food and my thinking that I had to unlearn that actually you want to eat more and more protein because your body uses more energy to burn down protein. And so that's actually a better approach than just basically starving yourself. I will admit it took me a few months to actually get on board with eating as much protein as you were asking me to. But once I did that, oh man, you can just see in my weight loss chart there that it just took off.
Yeah. Your commitment to that, especially over the last few months, has been remarkable because it just was like a switch flipped. And then to your point, the scale started changing, body composition started changing. And I think it's fair to say you're recognizable, but physically completely different looking from a physique standpoint. And um, I'd be curious for you, what were some of the things that outside of protein really helped you make that switch and that it's like a mindset shift, but it's also just like a taking different tactical approaches shift. What were like your three keys to success there?
Um, I think the first thing was to ask for help and admit that I don't actually know everything. That this guy who's, a health coach and very in shape himself might know more about this than I do. And I just had to put my thinking aside and just trust that this process could work and I'd give it a chance.
I like that. What else?
Um, the other two things that really worked for me one thing was making it fun. Um, when we would work out together, it was, we'd put on Beast Games or we'd even put on Star Wars movies. And it was not so much a task to go through. It was just something I could get to go do. And I think the third thing was making time for myself. Um, at the time, I was working 10, 12-hour days. And I was like, if this is going to be a priority, you're going to have to make some adjustments in that. And that well, I say unfortunately at the time, waking up at 4 o'clock to go meet you for a 5 o'clock workout. But now I look back and it really wasn't that bad. Started my day off well, um, much more easy to deal with stress. And by the end of the day, I felt really good.
Yeah. You mentioned the protein part. I want to double click on that. What were some of the foods specifically that you were adding in to increase your intake?
Yeah, before when I always thought more protein, I'm going to have to be like making steaks every night and just buckets of chicken and tofu. And it just seemed overwhelming. I'm like, I'm just one guy by myself here. I'm like, I can't consume all of that food. But started adding in little things like cups of yogurt with the high protein, mix that in with my protein powder for a shake. Adding in string cheese, turkey jerky. Instead of 2 eggs, maybe add in some egg whites. Just little things to each meal.
Hmm.
Actually, just ended up adding up really quick.
Yeah.
Um, it took a while for me to get used to that whole kind of feeling of being full, but it wasn't a feeling of being stuffed.
Yeah. Almost like you were satisfied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. You make a good point too, where all these little things add up. But I think a lesson for anyone watching, it's when you're consistent with breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, or whatever meals you're having, it's hitting those beats every single time so that those things can add up. If you are trying to have a bucket of chicken and a steak at dinner, that's pain station. And it's also not sustainable to put down 150 grams of protein in one sitting. You're looking for some meat sweats in a very sweaty night if that's the case. And so I'm glad that you called that out and just seeing how it all added up, even though it was kind of simple things as opposed to, again, when you said bucket of chicken, I cracked up because I pictured, have you ever seen Average Joe's Gym?
No.
Or no, Dodgeball, the movie
Yes.
Dodgeball. Yeah, so Dodgeball, and then you got Ben Stiller just sitting there eating his buckets of chicken
Yeah.
at the end of the movie. I was like, yeah, we don't want to do that. We want to have a little bit more balance.
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. And so for you, maybe you're talking to an older version of you, a younger brother, or even just someone watching this video. Like, what would you say to them if they were wanting to start a fitness journey, but just didn't have the motivation or weren't sure where to start? Like, what would be your advice to them?
Um, I think again, I'll say it again, ask for help. Ask somebody. That was the biggest starting point for me was just to reach out for help. Um, because otherwise it can be, at least for me, was too intimidating and thinking I had to figure it all out before I stepped into a gym. Um, so that was a big one. The other thing I would tell myself is don't go in right away saying you're going to lift 300 pounds or walk in first day you're going to run a marathon again. Smaller goals, achievable goals, but still challenging. Um, that was a big thing for me. I mean, the goal was to meet you and start our first workout. And then it became, start maybe run outside for a mile, start running again. Did
Yeah.
that. Those smaller goals as opposed to the grandiose one right at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, you've started training for a marathon. So I think
Exactly.
that's a great example of, all right, first goal, talk to the guy in the Jedi robes.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, down the line, you're like, next goal, run a marathon. And it's so funny how it starts small and then builds into something,
Yeah.
spectacular. So really cool, man. It's awesome getting to know you, working with you. You mentioned the having fun. I think that's another really key part. Make it Star Wars related. Watch Beast games, play music, whether it was EDM or Carrie Underwood. We were always blasting something. And so, for anyone watching, just have fun. And next thing you know, you might be the next Falcon in the Academy.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome, Eric. Thanks for the time, man. Excited to watch you on your marathon journey and who knows, maybe there's more marathons in the future, or maybe not, but always something. So keep it up, man. Thanks for the
Yeah.
time.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Bye.